Hello and welcome to the Your Way podcast. I think we're on episode 41. We will see. I am absolutely delighted and very excited, not least because of the little pre-chat we've just had, to have the amazing KC Cohn on the podcast today. So Casey is one of my, I was going to say long term, but like probably like the last 4 or 5 years, pals on the tinterwebs of Facebook. And I love her work. And what I've really noticed recently is that she's really like stepping into this is who I am. I'm going to own my space. Like, I've got these gifts, I'm going to use them. And it just felt so aligned to where I'm going and where the podcast is going and where I want to help all of you guys go that I had to invite her on. And delightfully, she said yes. So, Casey is a personal brand specialist and she tends to focus on helping women entrepreneurs to, I'm going to put it into her words, but in my words, like, again, really like step into and own all of who they are. So it's not just like, oh, this is how I'm going to show up and this is how I'm going to dress and this is what my colors are going to be for my logo. It's much bigger than that. So it's everything that encompasses what's required to make more money, attract more clients, have more opportunities. And I guess in light of the theme of this podcast, do it their way. So Casey, welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself properly, Bridget Jones style, please feel free.
Thank you. I am KC Cohn, and I am a personal brand strategist. And I help women entrepreneurs launch their brand in 90 days so that they can have more income, more clients, and more opportunities and be happy with them and themselves. And I wanted to share that I'm excited to tell you about a little story that I was mentioning or alluding to before about
Mhm.
that something that changed the trajectory of my life. And it had to do with when I went outside of this log cabin that I was staying in. And I was about ready to burn my whole business down, but I wanted to make one last ditch effort and
Mhm.
asked the universe and looked up to the blue sky and just said, what, if anything else, is there that I could do in this world? Like, what is meant for me? And immediately, this vision of portrait photography came into place. And I was
Wow.
already doing some coaching at the time. So I was like, what does this have to do with anything? So I'm excited we can get to it later, but that really shifted everything for me to get me where I am now with personal brand strategy.
I love that. And what I love there as well is like this, it's almost like it's surrendering to the universe, right? Of like, I'm just going to open myself up, access whatever you want to call it, your superconscious, higher timeline, universe, like whatever, but almost opening yourself up to be the channel to receive the wisdom that is already kind of like within you. And I think so often people think like, oh, I need to do all of these different things to figure out who I am and what I need and what I want. But a lot of the time, the work is just to get to the place where we're able to find it within ourselves.
Exactly, exactly, and that's, like the first step in my framework is removing the subconscious blocks, and a lot of the time just getting, down to the bottom of what's there, some wound or something from childhood, maybe a sibling, always got all of the accolades and you didn't, even though you were superior at your own craft, and you can grow up just thinking, my best isn't good enough, and you learn to give up because you're not going to get that attention. But then you fast forward to today and you notice that you might put something out there in social media and you hear crickets and you retreat. And then you go back and put it out again and you hear crickets and you retreat. So you move to something else. You keep following that pattern, never really getting anywhere and thinking, gosh, something's wrong with me. I'm not doing this right, or this online stuff doesn't work. When really it was just that narrative of my best isn't good enough. No matter how hard I try, I'm not going to get, the attention. Nobody's going to like me. And so, you learn to stop. So, like you said, you do have all of this inside of you already. And it's a matter of, for me, with my clients, it's removing that first block. And after that, it's like this huge explosion, just like a concrete, cape was just taken off your shoulders and, a fresh, lightweight new one was put on and you're able to soar through the air. And what that does is opens up your frequency and allows these things to become magnetized to you, where suddenly I've had clients suddenly have money fall into their laps, almost literally. Book launches happen, getting booked out for podcasts, just really incredible things start happening once you can remove this block that's in front of you and allow the inside to really come out.
Yeah. And I just want to make a note because we're going to come back to removing the blocks. I think the other challenge is, and I again would love your take on it, is if you think about going into the online world, right? It can get quite noisy. There's lots of people out there being like, you need to do this to grow your business, or you need to do this to grow your business. And it's very easy then to get into this comparison trap of like, oh, well, they're doing this, so maybe I should try this, or they're doing that, so maybe I should try doing that. And where I've got to is actually a lot of the time the stuff that is preventing people from being magnetic, like you've just said, yes, you've got all of these blocks, but it's also because they're trying to be somebody else. They're trying to be like, oh, well, that person seems to have like the right answer or the right formula, so I'll try and follow that. But all the time there's a mismatch between who they are and what they are uniquely here to do and what they're trying to be, then it's like there's a clash that people will it's not necessarily that people will feel it, but they won't feel magnetized.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of my gift as I can, I think sometimes we can see that or feel that in people, but I see it and I want to reach through the screen and just give them a big hug and like, oh my gosh, I can help you with this. And I'll share with you at the end, I have a gift for your listeners.
Mm,
And it's called the Why You gift. And it pinpoints that way that you can really differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd so that you
mm.
can stand out. So it's a really neat tool that I developed that I'll share with you later, but it's so true.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And interestingly, and it's not ready yet, and I will not be sharing a link at the end because it isn't ready yet. My next free masterclass is going to be called The Magic of You and What You Do, or like
Ooh.
The Magic of You and What You Are Here to Do. I think you can see it's early stages, but you're right. We do need to find this mechanism of like how do we cut through the noise out there, in order to kind of unleash in the world.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I started out I mean, I am a fourth generation entrepreneur. So, this whole field, I don't mind taking risks. I'm not going to bungee jump. I'm not going to be on a roller coaster at Disneyland,
Mhm,
but I will take risks with business and invest in myself for that all day long.
mhm,
So I was, however, working in a 9 to 5 position with a lighting agency. My background's in design and architecture, so that was my field. That is
mhm,
my field. And I had started a business on the side, a color consulting business.
mhm.
And I was doing that part time and it was taking off doing really well. And I thought, if I just spent more time with it, I can exponentially grow this and I could do great things. So I had planned with, you'll appreciate this. I had planned with my financial advisor how much
Mhm.
I should have built up before even deciding to leave that
Yeah.
that job, which I wasn't sure if I was going to or not, because I really did like it. But I decided to. Only it was 2 years before I probably should have, according to what my
Mm,
financial advisor had set up. So I did stash away some money and decided to jump ship on my 9 to 5 and went into this color consulting business. And that was something that I started in Washington, D.C., because I was not living very far from there. I picked up my bags, moved there about 30 minutes away from where I was prior, got a high rise. I could see the capital of the United States. And I was putting in more hours. I had a business model inside a paint store on
nice.
Pennsylvania Avenue. And it was established so that I could be in there and help people who would come into the store as a customer and help them with color.
Nice.
And then if they wanted me to come to their home, then I could, set an appointment and go to their home and help them pick out color for their walls, their furnishings, their finishes, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was putting in more hours there and all of a sudden there was another worker there. The manager sat us down and said, "Oh, hey, Casey, we wanted to let you know that this other worker here, she has been doing what you're doing unofficially, and we want to make her official. And since she's an employee with us and you're a subcontractor, we think that there really isn't going to be any
Mm.
conflict and that there's enough, customers to
Okay,
go
right, right.
around." Well, I'm kind of side-eyeing this, like, is there though? I thought,
Mm,
okay, let's try this. I mean, I just left a cushy job, right? I was very secure there.
mm,
Just spent money, on a nice high rise in DC and putting in more hours. I was only about a month in and the clientele started dwindling down. And I thought, no, no, it happened.
mm,
Like there really weren't enough customers to go around. It's like, what am I going to do? I've already left something. Am I just going to burn this down now? Do I need to find something else? Should I expand? So I decided to go out to the suburbs and expand out there. Took the same model, put it in a different store, and it was doing great. So great that their sister store contacted me and said, "Hey, Casey, can you come in and do what you're doing there?" I'm like, "Sure." Well, fast forward a couple years later, I felt like, Louise, I suddenly woke up and I had 6 paint stores that I had this model in. I had
mm.
hired 6 other women that I trained to do what I was doing in those stores, and I had hit 6 figures. I literally felt like I rolled over and that happened, just 6, 6, 6 all the way
Yeah.
around. And it was going great, until I realized I wasn't really having enough time for myself, and
Mm,
that's when I decided to take a trip out to the country and got in my car. I went and visited a friend for the weekend, and I was driving away from the city and suddenly noticed the amount of peace that I had because the scenery, I mean, if you imagine that painting behind you with some
mm.
rolling hills to the side, just green grass everywhere,
Nice.
blue Shenandoah Mountains in front of me, felt like I literally was going to drive into and over them. They were so far away. I just felt this sense of peace, and I was like, I don't think I want that frenetic city life again, where you can just feel everyone's like, white knuckling on the roads there and just thinking, oh, I got to get my kid to soccer practice. Oh, we got to have dinner on the table. Oh, I'm going to be working late at the office. And when you just drive away from it all, it just dissipates. So I left I left another cushy position for peace. That's what was calling me. And that was right before that whole trajectory thing changed. But I know you can relate to a lot of this jumping ship
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I love that. It's so interesting. So when I finished my degree, I got a job. So I trained to be a lawyer in London, and I was down there for 13 years. And it's so interesting, Mike, because you're in the rat race. Like you would get to get on a tube in the morning in London in rush hour. I think it's different now because post-COVID, not so many people go into the office. But like you couldn't just get on a tube. You might get on the fourth tube because the platforms were so round. And then even then you basically had to like throw yourself in because there was no space and like ram yourself in. And it was the same to get home at night. So like that was the journey. I don't even know what the decibel number is, but the tubes are noisy. In the summer, they're absolutely boiling hot. Like some of the newer ones are air conditioned, but generally they're not. Like it's obscene, right? And then you're right, you're in London and there is this just frenetic energy the whole time. But that was my normal, right? For 13 years. And so I had a month off work, took on we have a lot more annual leave over here than you guys do in the US.
You're so
Took
lucky.
had to use a month of my annual leave in September 2018, and we did this UK tour, and we had 3 nights in the countryside. And it's exactly like you said. I woke up in the morning and I was like, "This is how I want my life to feel."
Yeah.
And so we left London in 2020, rented for 6 months, and then moved to where we are now in 2021. And it's interesting because I didn't go back to London until last year. And it was so fascinating for me noticing like what had been completely normal in my system before and like feeling anxious getting on the train to go there and been like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to handle this. And then
Mhm.
get in there and you can just like feel the energy is different.
It's completely different.
Like it's
That's
grimy, but it's like,
mhm.
you're
I
gone.
know. I can relate because once I made that move, what I said was, I'm going to leave my color consulting business to fend for itself. If clients call, I will drive the 2 hours to go there and meet with them because I still loved it. I just knew that it was just time for something different, to find my passion and purpose.
Yeah.
But once I would get close to DC, I could feel that energy. I'd get on the same highway, getting closer. And that is the time that I realized I know what it's going through these people's minds that are in these cars. And it's completely different than where I am in the mountains. So it was just such a great place to put my feet down. I did end up going back to school to get my master's. And then I decided that I really wanted to dip into my passion and purpose. Like, what did I really, really want to do? Because yes, I
Mm.
wanted to, have a nice income and I wanted to be able to, help people, but I also wanted to make sure I was really happy with what I was doing because it's no fun being anywhere, no matter how much money you're making, if you're not happy with the environment. I know you know what I'm talking about
I
here.
love that. Let's just say that again. It's no good. Come and say it again. So just in case people would like
For the
weren't
people
listening,
in the back.
the people in the back. Doesn't matter how much money you're making, it's no good if you are not happy.
Oh yeah. I mean that it affects everything. It affects your
Mm.
relationships, it affects your health. There's just so much imposter syndrome that happens. It's really a selling out, of yourself. It's like prostituting yourself. And it takes a lot more, love and self-care and finding your values and creating that foundation, which is also part of the initial framework that I do with people. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was as I was hiring mentor after mentor to try to figure
Mhm.
out my passion and purpose, I got into some branding. I was doing some what I called branding excursions. You'll like this. I tapped into some intuitive things, like I did some intuitive color readings.
Nice.
Yeah, I just made up the whole process. It was fascinating. People were really getting amazing results. They were stuck in something, they'd get these amazing results. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but it was just fascinating learning kind of my powers, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
but they are your powers. You did little fingers, little quotation
it's
mark.
true. You're right.
But
You're
they
right.
are your powers.
You're exactly
Yes,
right.
carry on for
Sometimes I
sure.
need to be reminded of that.
Yes, you are
Um,
powerful.
Thank you. And yeah, so I ended up doing coaching for women entrepreneurs because I just love business so much. I
Mm.
have often said I feel like I could sell, business ideas on a street corner. That's how much I love it and brainstorming and just all of the, conceptual ideas that go into getting yourself out there. And the point is to get yourself out there. But, I said I went back to school. I was doing that online. And I wanted to do that so that I could get that out of the way. It was something that I just wanted to do in life and wanted to get out of the way because my parents were aging and I wanted to be able to be there with them should anything happen. I didn't want anything in the way. I didn't want to have to worry about school, or anything like that holding me back.
Mm.
So I was about halfway through it and I got a call that my mom had collapsed. And she was in Colorado, which is for you, like, I don't know, 7 states away from where I was in Virginia. So I could not get to her right away. But I also then got the call that she didn't make it and she had passed. And
Oh,
so,
sweet.
yeah, I did not get to be there with her. And we were so close. We talked all the
Mm.
time. She was my biggest fan. And I'm even now, I get choked up about it. Um,
Yeah.
but that is what one thing that really moved me and what was
Mm.
behind, another reason behind why I wanted to do what I wanted to do, because get this, she had always wanted to live at this really nice living facility because her
Mm.
best friend of 50 years was there. And her best friend was like the mayor of this, 200 resident place. And they could do all kinds of things from, watching movies, going on field trips, having crafts, exercising. Because for her, that was a social life. She just didn't
Yeah.
have that, before. So she had waited 10 years for that decided that she could go there and do it, but she figured it'd probably take a year because the place was really, had a long wait list. Well, the powers that be turns out that she could get in within 2 weeks, she and her partner.
Mm.
And as luck would have it, the one room that opened up was right next door to her best friend of 50 years. So
Amazing.
fast forward, she gets in there on day one and they are full of antics already. I mean, they're like these 8-year-olds that are here right now making so much noise and having fun. And she was there for about 10 days. And I remember the last night she said that she spent with her best friend, now her next door neighbor. They were putting away trinkets and just talking about old times,
Mm.
just having this really memorable moment. And then the next day is when she passed. And I was so just angry and frustrated that it wasn't fair that she got to her dream place. Yes, and she was almost 81,
Mm.
but she only had 10 days to live it. I
Mm.
was, yeah, I was so
Yeah.
just, I was
Mm.
so upset for her because I knew her so well and I knew how badly she wanted to get there. And we were all invested in it too. We're like, yeah, she gets to do this fun life. And we were excited for her too, but it just didn't happen. And that's when I was like, you know what? I don't want this to happen for anybody else
Mm.
in their life. I don't want them to either get to the end of the life and not have lived their dream or only have 10 days to live it. Or what I found out later in her life, Louise, was that she had wanted to be an interior designer. She instead chose to raise a family, which I'm
Mm.
so grateful for, right?
Yeah, of
I
course.
got that side of
Mm.
her. But if she had had someone like myself who could help hold that space for her, I don't know what was holding her back. And my dad was an
Mm.
entrepreneur. He could have helped her become, a successful
Mm.
designer. But someone like myself could have helped with any self-doubt or, fears while working through getting that business launched and doing it her way. So that's when I knew that I needed to do coaching for women because I wanted them to get their ideas out and share it with the world, not just so the world can have it, but so that they're just so fulfilled and passionate. And just like you and I, every so often these ideas just burst forth and we get chills thinking about them, thinking about delivering them and how much fun they are and how much impact they're going to make on the world. Like that is what I'm here for.
I love that. My new business coach yesterday used a phrase which is very apt here, which is like your why should make you cry. Or it's like that might not be that
Mhm.
the exact words, but like, it's
Yes.
about like it's that feeling sense, isn't it? Of like, this is what I'm here to do, or this is what I'm not here to do. Like for you, it's like I don't want people to have that experience of I'll do it when, I'll do it this time, I'll do it that time, I'll do it blah 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 blah. Because we talked about, and I think it was before we hit recording, about, you said about you help women, because that's who you tend to work with, and I do it with, whoever I work with their rule books, right? And you're right, because maybe, and we don't know, you might know, but maybe one of your mum's rules was you can be a good mum or you can go off and do your interior design dream, but you can't do both. And if that was just a rule that she never questioned because she never knew that she was allowed to question it or that it was possible to question it or that it was just a rule that wasn't even really a rule, like so often we're so stuck by the things that we don't question or challenge because we just accept that that's how they are until we find someone who can just help us explore it and be like, is that true?
I totally agree. I'm such a big proponent of finding that person. I mean, whether it's me, Louise, or anyone else, and, just continually trying. If the first person doesn't feel comfortable, I mean, I've had so many mentors in my life. Most of them are amazing. But having someone that can hold that space for you and that really understands you and lets you be you. And that's an amazing uncovering that you made from the other side of it. Like the impositions that we put on ourselves that keep us from doing what we want to do. Yeah, can I have a family and build a business? You're right. She may have felt like I can't do both. So that's a really good point. And that brings me to I started doing the coaching for women entrepreneurs and it was going
Mhm.
great and getting them amazing results. And I just knew everything that I was coming up with was working. But I wasn't making the money that I was with my color consulting business. And I
Mhm.
kept comparing myself to that. It was very frustrating. But it was to the point that I had to say, do I need to get another job because this isn't cutting it and I'm not getting enough, from just letting the color consulting business fend for itself. So
Mhm.
should I, go work at some coffee shop and, do this
Mhm.
coaching on the side? And my whole entire body was like, no, no, there's got to be, let's look somewhere. Like, let's look through these boxes somewhere. There's got to be an answer so that I don't have to do that, fortunately. And that is when I was staying in a log cabin.
Oh yeah, I'm
And I
glad you've come back to that because it's on my list. Yes.
Yeah, so I went outside on the porch that day because I was desperate for some answers and wide open. Kind of like if you've ever drank too much one night and you're in front of the toilet and you're like, I promise I'll do anything. I'll never do this again. I was at that point. I'm like, I will do whatever you say. So I got outside and I looked up to the sky and I just remember how blue it was that day and how quiet it was and how peaceful it was. And I just, gave everything I could to the universe and said, what is there left that I could do in this world, that I am not already doing? Like, just give me a sign. And I figured that I would just put that out there and then somewhere I'd see a breadcrumb that would help me, with
Yeah.
where to go. No, before I even finished the question, this image of portrait photography came into place. Literally, I saw a frame floating in the air with a couple of, people, kids, something sitting in there. I was like, portrait photography. I'm like, me because I love looking at portrait photography. I just really feel like a picture paints 1,000 words. And I love
Mhm.
looking at the meaning behind it and the feeling and just the way photographers are so magical with what they capture, right? So I thought, wait, I'm doing coaching. I'm not going to become a photographer. My dad was one actually as
Mhm.
a hobbyist, and we had a dark room in our basement, which was
Oh wow.
always fun, yeah, to go into and learn. So I knew a little bit, but it wasn't going to be my thing. And because I was so focused on making my coaching business work, I was like, all right, I will just tuck this in the back of my head and let's see what we can do so I don't have to go, work at the part-time job. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It
It
was not
wasn't
what you wanted.
not in my energy, realm.
Yeah.
So a few days did go by and I found myself sitting there kind of just zoning out at my screen, looking at social media, just kind of scrolling. And I noticed I was looking at, some of my colleagues who are,
Mhm.
business women. And like I said earlier, I could see into what they were posting. I could see the pictures they were posting. I could see lives that they were doing. I could just feel because I can see people. It's
Mhm.
just this extra thing that I have. And when I'm really in a certain space, it's like I can read their thoughts, like they're just so loud.
Yeah. Your
And that
powers.
my
Powers.
powers. Okay, my powers.
Yes, I
And
think it's time to own these psychic intuitive gifts.
I did start to over time. And yes, and I'm sure you're helping me bring them out even more. So I realized that just me wanting to reach through the screen and tell them I can help you because I could see they weren't getting anywhere. I can help you and I want to help you. And like, let's do this because I've got all these ideas for how we can do it. And that's when I put together this idea of having a photo shoot that I could help them with. But I was trying to figure out how the photo shoot was going to relate to my coaching. And what I realized was oh, maybe if all these blocks that we're uncovering and the values that we're creating for a foundation, there can be a way that they could visually, foresee what's there for them and be in their future selves. So I had the idea that we could go into Pinterest and create like a life bucket of how they want their life to be, a business bucket of how they want their business to be, and then a dun da 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 photo shoot bucket for how they want their photo shoot to be, which was so much fun. And so I tried it with some of my clients and had them use that as inspiration, and I'm holding space for them, and we're figuring out some archetypes and some fantasy, realms that can really help show them their power. And I told them you can go out and get a formal photo shoot if you want, or you could just go all the way down to a, selfie session.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to do that. So I had one person had her boyfriend take pictures of her with her concept that we helped put together. And another person actually just went into Canva. This was before AI was getting big, and took existing pictures of herself and did all of these overlays that were just so, so amazing. And what I learned from that was not only when they posted it on social media and put them with their content, they received just incredible, um, interaction and praise. And it was just so magnetic. People started coming to them. And not only that, but that's when, money started falling into their lap. They were putting out best-selling books and starting podcasts and all of those kinds of things. And able to stand up to the people that they couldn't before because they feared it so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so the whole process is almost like a reclamation of who they are. You know what I mean? As in, like, this is who I am, and like they've uncovered those blocks. I have something so important to talk to you about on this topic that I would love your take on, right? Because there are so many different ways that we hear the messaging around how we show up and present ourselves physically having an impact in our brands. Now, such she says in a very squeaky voice, is a bit like if you don't do this and you don't have your hair done, you don't have your makeup done, and it's not all on brand and you look like shit, then no one's going to take you seriously. It can bring a lot of shame, right? It can bring a
Yes.
whole lot of shame, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and or if you're not someone who is like quote unquote photogenic, or you don't believe you are quote unquote photogenic, right? There can be all of this shame of like, well, I can't have a successful business because blah 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 blah. I'm not a size 10. I don't have big boobs. I don't have clear skin. I don't whatever, 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 right? And that I think can become so insidious and so dangerous and so harmful. But what I see you posting about a lot, which is why I would like to have this conversation, is you'll be there, beautiful, fresh face, no zero makeup on, talking about like how beautiful a person is just in their like raw bare state, being who they are, just showing up. Um, I can't
Yeah.
tell right now. You look very like very natural face today. You may or may not have makeup on. It's hard to tell, right? But you're
None.
very natural,
Yeah.
right? Right, exactly right. So no makeup on. So talk me through this for like because there are going to be people listening to this who's like who are almost like, oh fuck, and if I have to go and pay for professional photographs and I can't get my business off the ground, or I'm not going to be magnetic to people if I don't look a certain way. And I know that's not what you're saying. So anyway,
It's
back to
not.
you.
Thank you so much for asking that. That really is the crux of what's behind here. And it is a big fear that people have. And especially going into a photo shoot, they absolutely have it. So, like I said, you can do selfies all the way to a professional photo shoot. So that
Mm,
that range is there. But what I uncovered even more recently is that the phases that I take them through and that I want them to prepare for. And oh, by the way, I do have a image consulting certificate, but I don't really claim that as my thing. It just gives me insight because I'm
yeah.
I'm like what you're saying. I always feel like you should be able to just walk out the door and do whatever you want and enter any room that you want. It should not matter But I feel like there is something, with women too and their expectations that are, set on them, that are imposed on them, that I'm here to change. So what I recently stumbled upon was and realized is that there is our raw self where we just want to be able to wake up and throw on anything. It doesn't matter. It makes us feel good. It's what we love. And we can face the world like that. So that is raw. And I've been on this kick where people talk about confidence. You need confidence. And, people are only going to come to you if you have confidence. And I say, are they? Are you sure? Because we are all human and we don't always have confidence. And
Mm,
in fact, there was an interview that I watched with Elliot Gould one time, who is the son of Barbara Streisand.
right.
And he was being interviewed, and he's, in the interview, you could just see with his body language, with his hands, sort of just kind of caressing them. And he talks so much, so vulnerably about his fears about singing and, having this famous mom. And she didn't even realize he could sing until he could when he was much older, but much, much older. And I loved that. I was like, I'd much rather watch this interview than somebody who's coiffed and, just speaking so professionally. And I just want to know the person. And for me, that's the only way I can bring out what's inside of you to make you, not make you magnetic, but bring out that magnetic side is to
Mm,
see that. If we're covering it all up, with blocks and bricks or, shoulds, then I can't see that. So we've got the raw state and then we've got your future state
hmm
where you're thinking about, wow, well, I do want to be, someone different. I do realize I'm probably going to have to change this thought or this belief or these actions a little differently. And so
Yeah.
how you might see yourself there, whatever that is. And then
Yeah. Love it.
we've got this fantasy state, which is
Mm.
where your power resides. I mean, nobody says that you have to go
No.
out with your witch's hat and your cauldron and your broom all the
But I
time,
might.
but she might. But it's fun and it makes you just come out of your shell.
Mm,
That's what this is all about. I feel like that we have this shell, like we're this statue in the middle of, Times Square or something, and all this traffic's just going around us. And my job is to like start, chipping away at that and bringing that out and helping you feel safe and helping you talk to the person that will really understand you. Because a lot of times we can't talk to, the brother, the mother, the sister, even the colleague. We don't want to wear people down that are in our circles. But that's what I'm here for. That's what a mentor or a coach can be there for, is to hold that kind of space. So we've got raw, future, and fantasy that we're working with. Sometimes they might be the same, or sometimes my clients might have different labels for what, they want to call themselves. But I'm open for possibility. I feel like what I am is I'm giving you the key to Disneyland. And it's like the VIP pass where you get to go in and you get to skip the queue and be the first in line to ride the roller coaster, be the first in line to see the show. And it's all about bigger goals faster. And you get to be yourself.
yeah. I love that. I love that. A lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment, kind of for myself, a bits with clients, but I'm kind of at the for myself integration stage at the moment right now. So neatly like goes alongside that. So it's more about like it's like the future self work, but from the place of like um, like there've been multiple timelines available or like quantum jumping and things. And it's like so there's a timeline where maybe there's a timeline where I'm not sure how I feel about Raw Louise, because for me Raw is like that's like sex without a condom.
Ooh, okay. All right.
But anyway, maybe that's just like a UK thing, but that's fine. And then there's like the what was the second one?
Future
Yeah,
self.
then there's the future self, and then you're right, and then like so then for me maybe the fantasy is like that highest timeline of if I was completely unencumbered and I didn't have all these ties and all of these shoulds, and I really like the unbridled like full on. which you turned up to 10, that like all of those parts of me, like what would that look like? Like it's a similar process, isn't it? But then you're sort of putting this practical, tangible thing on, like, right, so we do this work together, but then you also have this like physical, visual manifestation of that.
Yes.
Because you're right, when we're online, people are only gonna see the like they can watch a video, but I think most people actually watch videos on mute with the captions on. So they're gonna get a lot of what they get. I don't mean if you're listening to a podcast, obviously, but they're going to get a lot of what they get from like what they physically see. But that
Mm.
also doesn't mean the day when you do the raw selfie is bad.
Right.
It's all
Well,
parts of us.
yes, and it's you're saying that they're making their impression based on what they see. But what we're delivering in my container is what they feel. So
Mm,
that just exudes from them at any level. And being in the fantasy stage where you could be this archetype or whatever it is that you want to be, it's like dress rehearsal. You're getting into that mode of the warrior or your sovereign self or whoever it is. And you're playing that role. But the really neat thing, and I've coined this photo shoot process as a therapeutic photo shoot process or method,
love it. Love it.
is because I did this for myself, but I did it after I tried it with my clients first, which is sometimes how I tend to roll because I come up with these tools. And I had my own photo shoot and I drove, about 6 hours away to Savannah, Georgia, and had this really, really amazing photographer who was very open to helping me and a really amazing, makeup artist. And I had told them, my concept beforehand, and we were able to bring that out. And fortunately, he took just thousands of shots and we had different, changes of wardrobe and we had a second shooter, which gave me the opportunity to look at myself from the outside because
Mm,
she took one specific shot of me talking with the photographer and talking with the makeup artist. And I was in between the two of them. And it was actually a video that I went back and looked at. And I was in the middle of them. And I'm a creative. So I've got a vision and I want to put it forth. I know what I
mm,
see. I want it a certain way. But when I saw myself, I saw Casey, who was really grounded, who was
mm.
really kind and polite and open and curious and had so much faith in these two other professionals on either side of me. And the conversation was about this war paint that's on my face. I'm going to share that picture with you for the headshot here. But the photographer had a certain idea. The makeup artist had a certain idea. The photographer won by wanting to put it a certain way.
Mm,
But they're asking me, like, do I want this? What do I want? And I'm like, it's in your hands. You know what I want. Let me let you do that. Anyway, I was able to look back at that video without even hearing the conversation, just watching it. And I said, oh my God, that's her. That's
mm.
me. I've
Yeah.
arrived. Like I'm
Mm,
already who I keep envisioning, all those
mm.
meditations, all of the things that I was doing, all the envisioning, all of the
Yeah.
Pinterest, boards and things that I was doing in my mood board. And I said, there she is. I've arrived. And
Yeah.
that is what's so, so, so incredible about doing photo shoots and doing it this way. That's what I found is this coaching and this nurturing and this holding of space from your core because you get to see yourself not only from the inside out, but from these photo shoots from the outside in. And it's to the core and it's magical.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so, so powerful. And I'm conscious of time, so I won't go into loads of detail, but I will just say a few years ago, I did some work with a lady who was a color stylist. She was my client. And I'd worked with her when we both worked in tax. I'd gone off to do coaching. She'd gone off to become a color analyst. And she reached out to me and said, like, I really think that you would enjoy it. I was terrified and I bawled my eyes out because there
Oh,
was so much shame. Like I didn't like clothes because like as a kid I was overweight and it was always horrible going shopping and I didn't want to do all of this stuff. And it was the most enjoyable session. Like she held beautiful space for me to cry, right?
nice.
And it was the most beautiful session of me being able to like come alive a little bit and get excited and understand different things and play around with it. Can't say I improvised a lot of it, but like I've got the actually I've got my little pattern today. But right, but it's like, but it is so magical when someone can see and hold you. And so where I'd love to finish today is something that we were chatting about a little bit before we started, but I think it's so important about and you kind of alluded to it a little bit. It's so easy to work with different people and to be given a model or a structure or try and do it like follow this specific template. Or you go and see a business coach and they're like, here's the strategy to follow. And then you somehow can't follow the strategy, or you're trying to follow the strategy, but it doesn't quite happen. And you go and see a therapist and you like do the healing work and you're healing, and that's great. But then it's like, but my business isn't really any different. And I think and I actually think both of us do this, but I'd like to hear you talk about your thing. Um, but I think where your approach is really different is, and I know you're not holding yourself out as a therapist, but you can kind of span the whole piece of like, you can be with your emotions. Like you said at the start, we're going to get into those subconscious blocks. We're going to remove the subconscious blocks. We're going to use this, and it sounds incredible. And I've seen your pictures as well, and they are amazing.
Thank you.
And we're going to do this therapeutic photo shoot to bring out and allow you to make contact with these parts of you that might be a little bit hidden right now so that you can see them. And I really loved what you just said before about when you were watching that video. And it was like, I've already arrived. She is me. The vision board life is the reality right now. But
Yes.
sometimes we need that thing to be like, oh, actually, oh, I'm here. I'm here. Oh, I can just live and enjoy my life. That's great. So, talk us through a little bit about your approach, and I guess maybe with a little bit of backstory of some of the experiences that you had that made you realize that this I'm going to call it holistic, but we know what I mean. Like a wider approach is necessary.
Hmm.
Um, and you definitely also talked about a free gift for the guests, so you could perhaps touch on that as well.
Sure.
That's
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes. Thank you. So the work that I do and how I landed upon it was that a lot of us women entrepreneurs get really paralyzed where we could be doing well, but either we're not able to get to that next level or we just feel stuck and we're not sure why. And like Louise had mentioned, we take all the courses, we hire all the mentors, we're gathering more knowledge. And, I mean, over and over and over again, I can't tell you how many amazing business strategists, marketing strategists, sales strategists I've hired to deliver something, even as simple as a sales page. And we
Mm,
work on it and they give it to me, and I'm like, yeah, no, this just, it doesn't feel right. I didn't know why, but it kept
mm,
happening over and over and over again. Even a business strategist who was merely explaining some platforms that I could use. And, I started thinking about actually implementing those and having my team and ways to communicate better. And suddenly I found myself backpedaling. And this is so normal. And what was going through my head was, I'm going to have to commit time to this. If I put all this together, that means I'm going to have clients. That means I
mm,
can't just rattle around my day whenever I want, wake up whenever. And like, I'm going to have a time when I'm seeing clients.
mm,
And it's just like what you were saying. Well, what if my mom thought, oh, I can't have a family and run a
mm,
successful interior design business at the same time? So it's those kinds of thoughts that if that was her thought, that might have gotten into my head, subconsciously.
mm,
So we tend to push things back. And sometimes for those of us that are more sensitive, like myself, we feel embarrassed
mm,
to tell that business strategist, that I'm feeling really nervous and I don't think I can do this. And we don't like sounding the way we're even sounding, telling them that. You,
Mm,
Louise, were extremely fortunate, by the way, to have had a colorist who you could open up to like that. Because what
mm,
I've found is most people specialize in the thing they specialize in because they're so good at it. The
mm,
strategists don't usually have the coaching experience. They're
mm.
not a therapist. They're not who you go to, unleash all of this information. They just don't know what to do with it. I know they're great people, nothing against them, but
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
tried. I just felt really bad about it. And then
Mm,
at the other end of the spectrum, we're seeking therapy, we have mentors, and I have the best ones, but they're not the people I'm going to take my business information to
mm,
because they're
yeah.
not business strategists. They're amazing at these other things.
Mm,
And they don't know the entirety of my business, even if they could help me with one thing. So we're stuck in this middle between the strategist and the therapist without the right support.
mm,
And I happen to have the background in psychology, the background as a crisis center trainer and volunteer, and can implement that support and that coaching while we're developing their personal brand that helps them become more visible, but become more visible for who they are. We're not just handing out colors, we're not just handing out logos, we're not just handing out fonts. So that's the important part. And that leads me to the gift, which is a tool that I call the Why You tool. And in that, it helps you discover how to differentiate yourself within your industry because it's asking you to not only look at your why, which we've all done, which we all know is important, which we all feel passionate about, but it's asking why you. And it's asking in such a way that it's like, why you and why not your mother? Why isn't your mother doing this that you could do?
mm,
Why isn't it your brother? All these people that you know in your life, you start making these comparisons, not because you're judging them, but because you're trying to find out what makes you different. It's that outside looking in thing
mm.
again. So it's a wonderful tool. It's a PDF that I'm happy to share with your clients that,
Amazing.
yeah, they're your listeners, that my own audience and my own clients have used and have had just amazing, amazing results because it gives them the confidence. They know who they are now. And for me, when I did it, I'll just end on this. I learned that I have a trifecta of a background that supports what I'm doing, that makes me so different. And that is the psychology that I mentioned, the creative side that I mentioned
Mm,
that puts us in this Disney of possibilities, and then the fourth generation entrepreneur. I have all three of those things that allows
yeah.
me to reach across the aisle to both sides and really bring out a strong, confident personal brand. And that means that personal brand is you. Even if you feel insecure, it's still you.
Yes, I love that. The personal brand is you. Okay, so I'm assuming the PDF is something that we're going to pop in the show notes people can download.
Yes, actually, right now, they can reach out to me through social media, LinkedIn, my name, KC Cohn. You can look for me there. I'll leave the link to that. And they can just DM
Brilliant.
me for right now. Yeah, I'm working on a website. So until we get that settled, that's how they can reach me.
Yeah, perfect. And then so I know you are on LinkedIn because you kindly commented on my video earlier. So LinkedIn, Facebook, are they the two best places to come and
LinkedIn,
find you?
Facebook, and Instagram, all of
Okay,
those.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
yes, my business is called House of Vision. So if they see that in there too, they'll know it's the right
Okay.
place. Yeah.
Amazing. And we will get links for all of that in the show notes as well.
Yes. Wonderful.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being on today. Is there anything that you're like, I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't get a chance before we finish up?
Wow, I feel like we covered everything. I just really want to encourage people to reach out to a mentor, a life coach, a
Mm.
business coach, a personal branding strategist, and find someone who really can hold the space for you because that is key to supporting you and all of your feelings and making sure that your end result is entirely your authentic self.
Yeah, and I think that's the key bit, right? It's someone who can help you be all of who you are and for you to shine brighter not an alternative kind of someone that like just don't work with people that are going to make you feel shit is my little addition to the end of the
That'll be my
podcast.
tagline. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Work with people that make you feel like shit. Casey, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
People, please do reach out to Casey if you've got any questions for her, if you want to talk to her about doing a therapeutic photo shoot, all of that good stuff. Links will be in the show notes, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye.